The manhunt continues for Luka Magnotta. We are also still searching for a motive. Michael Gulayets is a criminologist at McEwan University in Edmonton. He has 15 years experience working with mentally disturbed individuals in Alberta. But Michael, I'll bet you have never seen anything like this case before.
Well, of course, this is an extremely rare and unusual case.
One of the things, we just touched on it with our guest a minute ago, Joe Warmington. There is a video that apparently was made, apparently by Magnotta, after his victim was killed, in which, in the video, and this was posted to YouTube, where he dismembers the body, cannibalizes the body, just horrific scenes. What sort of criminal wants to do this sort of thing and then show it to the world? What's behind that?
Well, it's certainly not the usual kind of criminal. The vast majority of criminals, of course, want to keep their criminal behavior secret. You don't post it on YouTube and send evidence to various postal addresses if in the usual criminal case. Examples like this are just extraordinary, extremely unusual.
The Magnotta has also posted, and again, he's got a long online life, which everybody's been digging into. One of the things he put online was a memo titled along the lines of How to Disappear, in which it laid out a series of steps to take if you want to vanish. Now, apparently, we've had some experts who say that this was not his creation. He cobbled this together from other parts on the internet, how to completely disappear and never be found. From a crime standpoint, a police standpoint, what is the work now for the police? Are they going to be able to track this guy down, do you suspect?
Well, I suspect they will. Of course, someone who is trying to hide from the police and trying to disappear usually doesn't do the kind of things that he does. So it suggests not a terribly sophisticated criminal, probably someone who's more attention-seeking than a good criminal. So likely the police will eventually track him down.
As someone in the field, for criminologists, for psychopathologists, the sort of whole field, as we discover cases, individual cases like this, what, as a researcher, are you going to be able to learn, and how that might factor into helping police prepare better to track these cases, and how to help social agencies, etc., prevent or find help for these folks before they commit these acts?
Well, a lot of times these cases are so sensational, so out of the ordinary, that it's one of a kind. The much more common crimes, domestic violence, property crimes, theft, assaults, those more common crimes, you can learn more from them rather than crimes that are sometimes literally 1 in a million. It's just the actions of one very apparently disturbed person.
And again, we're going to say this throughout the show. You, of course, haven't interviewed anybody in this case. We're all relying on the information that Magnotta himself put online and that the police have released to us. In this case, it looks like the victim was known to Magnotta, may have been his lover. Do we take any significance from the fact that his victim was known to him? In other words, he's not out there on a rampage tracking people down, perhaps?
No, that's important to make the distinction that, in fact, that might be the only usual part of this case, is that most violent crimes, the offender and the victim know each other. So that is common in this case to most other violent cases. This certainly doesn't appear to be any kind of random act or any kind of act like that.
Well, Michael Gulayets at McEwan University in Edmonton, thank you so much for your insights. I very much appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And my next guest is no stranger to the workings of a disturbed mind. Gregg McCrary is an author, forensic psychologist, and a former FBI profiler. And we've reached him in Northwest Virginia tonight via Skype. And I want to ask, I guess, first of all, you're in the profiling business, but in this case, it's not so much a profile as we need a fugitive hunter. What's the difference there? Why is that important for law enforcement agencies?
Right. Right. Well, just so we're clear, typically the profiling aspect of crime analysis takes place when we have an unknown offender. We're trying to figure out who it is we're looking for, and we can help in that regard. This is different because we have a known individual here that we're looking for. So now it shifts from a who done it, so to speak, as to where is he. So now it's a fugitive hunt that's on now. But behavioral science can be helpful in this endeavor as well.
What we know, again, from the record that Magnotta himself put online and what the police are saying is, until this criminal act occurred, he created quite a persona about himself online. The criminal act itself is a horrific one. There's video. What do you make of all these sort of incredible circumstances of this individual's life and the crime? What do they say about the scale of this depravity, I suppose?
Right. Well, I think there are a couple of things. One, we certainly have had individuals engage in dismemberment, but typically they do it for reasons other than what appears to be the case here. In other words, a lot of times offenders who dismember do it to dispose of the body so it won't be found. They try and hide it and conceal it and so forth. Others have more sort of a sexual pathology, and they may keep body parts for, sexual reasons and so forth. What's different here is his wanting to almost publicize this, to make it well known, mailing body parts and so forth, this sort of thing. So I think it's different. I mean, I think it's fair to say he's probably doing this to shock and offend folks rather than to obviously not try to conceal a body or very, very limited, feeble attempts to do that.
Again, one of the other weird parts of this is his decision. It's weird that he wanted to mail these body parts, but then he wanted to send them to politicians, to political outfits. And we're here in Canada's capital, and it's got obviously the political class buzzing about this. Is there any history of these sorts of psychopaths mailing body parts or involving politicians in this very direct way?
Not that I can think of, and I guess the only thing we could say, he seems to be an equal opportunity offender in that he is sending it seems to be both sides of the political spectrum here. So I'm not quite sure what to make of that. We could all, I guess, draw our own opinions.
Well, and Greg, let me ask you the question I was asking Michael a minute ago, which is somebody in the business who makes it his profession to study the pathology of these individuals. Is there anything you expect to learn or that you're watching for coming out of this particular case?
Well, we learn from each individual case. There are no two that are exactly alike, but it's just putting these cases together one after another. And it's really what the FBI research is about, going into prisons, interviewing these offenders. As I say, we're not the experts. They're the experts because they're the ones who are actually doing this. We go and study them, the method and manner, and of course the whole goal is to learn from them so we can cut short their violent career.
And the last question I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to ask you to get you to speculate a little bit. We were asking the police today if we believe Magnotta is a threat to other people. We only know of one victim, but there was a letter in one of these body part packages that threatened that there may be more violence.
Right.
Do we take that? Should we be taking that threat very seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very, there are those who make threats and don't really pose a threat, and this guy actually not only has committed an act of violence, and once he's done this sort of really severely pathological thing, there's no doubt he's a threat to others. It'll just depend on the circumstance and so forth, but that's the urgency of trying to get this guy located and locked up.
What's your bet? Says someone who's watched the FBI track people down. It is a fugitive case. Is there enough information out there that is on the public record that you expect the police to be able to find this guy?
Yeah, I can't imagine he's going to stay on the run for too long. First of all, this is such a heinous crime. I can't imagine anyone wanting to befriend him or hide him or protect him in any way. So, and that's what fugitives depend on, is other people to cover for them and so forth. And I just can't imagine there's much, if any, sympathy at all for this guy. So I can't imagine he's going to be out there free too long.
Actually, sorry, Greg, let me ask one more question for you, because this just popped in my head. Is there a history or is there cases where these sorts of individuals would rather do themselves in? In other words, may he be a suicide risk possibly?
Sure, that's a possibility. Some want the They don't want the responsibility. They want sort of the notoriety for doing this, but they don't want to accept the responsibility. I worked a serial murder case where a guy was murdering in Europe and the United States. He went all the way to trial, but once he was convicted, he committed suicide within 6 hours of being convicted. It was his way of not wanting to have himself subjected to the rules of society. So in these cases, that's certainly a possibility.
Well, Gregg McCrary, thank you so much for joining us and very much appreciate your insights.
You're welcome.